So what we're going to show today, and we're going to show the demonstration system, is how great new feature, live migration in Windows Server 2008 R2 Hyper-V can really make SQL Server more highly available and load balanced. So what we see here is Virtual Machine Manager 2008 R2, which is our virtualization management product. And we're managing a cluster of Server 2008 R2 boxes. And on those virtual machines, we're actually running one that's running SQL Server. So what we can do with this is we can actually go ahead and migrate it from one node to the other. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to launch this program that loads a stored procedure and create some worker threads. So we'll actually generate some loads.
So you're putting some load on. One of the things that people have been concerned about with database applications is the effectiveness of the I/O subsystem in virtualization. We've done a lot of analysis of this with Hyper-V, and have come to the conclusion that while there's no ambiguity that virtualization puts some overhead on systems, there is a small amount of overhead associated with it. The capabilities that Hyper-V provides in terms of providing high-performance I/O are very, very strong. In fact, one of the things we looked at when we launched Hyper-V 18 months ago was our performance relative to VMware. And we looked across the board at that overall, and frankly, ESX has always done a pretty good job, so we expected that we would fall short. When we did the analysis, we determined that Hyper-V was very comparable to VMware, pretty much across the board. And one area where we've excelled relative to VMware, frankly, is I/O performance for running applications like SQL Server. So it's a very good environment to virtualize and get some of the benefits of consolidation. And clearly, that's an opportunity to reduce some costs.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to go and hit the migrate button. And what Virtual Machine Manager do is automatically go out and look at all the available nodes and analyze the available I/O, disk, and memory, and pick the best available host. And we'll hit next, and then we'll hit move. And what it's going to do is it's actually moving that virtual machine right now, and we can see the information. And as you can see, the process still continues. There's no delay. There's no loss of connectivity to the SQL Server itself. And it's much more than just having the live migration. We can actually link this to our performance resource optimization product, and that can actually dynamically move these virtual machines based on load or memory or other factors.
So in this case, there were transactions running consistently. The transactions didn't skip a beat at all. They kept running. The live migration does that seamlessly behind the scenes. And this opens up a set of opportunities to simplify management, and as I said, also to provide cost savings by consolidating pre-existing systems that may be underutilized on modern hardware.
Absolutely.
So,
Great. Thank you very
Thanks
much,
a lot,
Bob.
So that's all technology that's available today, and it's an opportunity to take advantage of it. One of the things that we've also been excited about is as we work with our customers, we see the ability for customers to save a great deal of money over the competition by working with and just using the facilities in Windows Server 2008 R2, as well as the management tools that Microsoft provides. We have a very comprehensive set of solutions that simplify the administration and at the same time provide a much lower cost than the alternative. And it's something that I think is very important in terms of the way we think about the evolution of the data center, the role of the database within that data center, and then the long-term implications of as we move to the cloud. Now, over the next few years, what we will see is applications being rethought to take the next step and think about how they can run more effectively in a cloud environment. And it's worthwhile for me taking a second to define the word cloud, because in fact it's a word that's used pretty broadly in the industry, and it's misused a lot. It's used to mean different things. And if you take a look at what Gartner or Forrester or any of these folks have to say, their definition is all relatively similar. The cloud is about providing IT as a service to organizations, either within a company or across different companies. It is about providing a pool of computing resources that all operate together effectively as a single computer. You can think of it as hundreds or tens, hundreds, or thousands of computers all connected together to provide this computing and business resource for the organization. And one of the things that clouds enable is the creation of elastic or scale-out applications, applications that respond to the needs of the business by utilizing more resources as they're needed, then giving them up when they're not needed anymore. We had a classic example of this that Microsoft was running inside our own cloud, Windows Azure, that we used internally for the company just recently. We're just completing our annual giving campaign where where all the employees at Microsoft can go into that application and provide donations to the charitable organization of their choice. And this is a classic application where for most of the year it's not being used at all. For a few months of the year it's used relatively lightly, and in about a 36, 48-hour period it's used incredibly heavily by a large number of applications as they all meet the deadline and actually sign up to give. And in this case, what that application did is it scaled from essentially just a few computers that were running the application up to about 24 computers total to handle the full load that everything was required for that one period, and then scaled right back down. That kind of elastic computing capability is something that I sometimes think of as the 5th generation programming model. If I kind of go back in time, I mentioned client-server earlier. The first programming model I would call the monolithic or mainframe programming model. And that, of course, was created in the 60s and 70s with terminals and mainframe computers. In the late 80s, with SQL Server, the industry introduced the client-server programming model. In 1995, we saw the creation of the web application programming model. And in roughly 2000, we saw the creation of SOA, or web services-based programming model. Well, now what we're seeing is an evolution of all of those, because each one of them builds on the other, to create this scale-out programming model, this next generation. And that's what that's what clouds will enable. At first, what we will see is clouds building these things, companies building these things within their own cloud environment, within their own organization, and that will be important because companies will want to maintain control of that data. So private clouds will be a very, very important thing. And one of our focuses as we move forward with SQL Server and our management tools and Windows Server is to enable companies to build their own private clouds. But we'll also see public clouds being created where you have many, many different companies working together on a broad set of shared resources. And those public clouds will be created by companies like Microsoft with our products like Windows Azure, our services like Windows Azure. They will also be created by many hosters which will build their own public clouds for use within organizations to get computing and data resources available. The key from our perspective is that we see this as one of the natural transitions in the industry. It very much does affect the data professional, and we'll talk about that in the context of the evolution of our database, SQL Server, as we've learned from and have implemented SQL Azure in our own public cloud. So we're learning a lot through this process, but we're learning a lot and opening up capabilities that will be very useful to you and your organization, both simplifying your job and providing new opportunities for the data that's so critical to be managed more effectively. The key from Microsoft's perspective is regardless of where you want to implement your applications, whether you want to use a traditional data center, whether you're implementing virtualization, you have a private or dedicated cloud that you begin to implement, or you're looking at taking advantage of some of the public cloud capabilities, we'll be focused on providing a coherent programming environment and management environment across all of those. So the skill sets that you have today with SQL Server will be highly leveraged going forward. When we show you SQL Azure, it will look familiar to you, and the skill sets that you have today will be very helpful for you and will put you in a very good position as these next generation clouds begin to be introduced. And I mean, that's one of the differences where Microsoft can provide a unique situation for the industry and for our customers. Unlike other organizations, Microsoft has a very large installed base of committed users and systems that run Windows Server and SQL Server. And at the same time, we are investing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in building very large data centers that have amazing amounts of capacity which we literally measure in megawatts for the amount of servers. A typical data center has between 35 and 100,000 servers in it, so these very massive data center servers. It turns out that in order to understand how to build software to run effectively in these large data centers, it's really important we run it ourselves. It's an important thing because we learn how to do that. We are learning things today with SQL Azure which are being directly applied and will help with SQL Server in the coming releases. In fact, some of the administrative features, like the DAC that exists in SQL Server 2008 R2, is something that we're working to build in a compatible way between SQL Azure and SQL Server. So learnings from our cloud experience are coming back to the work that and the products we're delivering on premises. And of course, the knowledge and all of the feedback and all of the partners and all of the history and information you have is critical as the industry moves forward into the cloud. So it is a virtuous circle that connects these things very much together in a cohesive way. And again, our focus will be to enable you and your organizations to work with and build business solutions in the way that makes sense for you, at the pace that makes sense for you, leveraging the skill sets that you have all along the way. So whether you wish to build your next generation applications in your own data center, to work with the many thousands of hosting partners that exist out there, or work with Microsoft in our own data center with Windows Azure, those choices will all be available, and they will be available in a way that is consistent and, again, leveraging that very important skill set you have. So as we move forward, I think it's a very interesting time. It's a time when there is a whole set of things that are happening and in terms of transformation of IT. And in the process of how IT is being transformed, your role is also transformed. The thing that I think is important here, when you think about the high-performance servers with lots and lots of memory, when you think about end users that have new capabilities, new abilities and new demands, when you think about the advent of the cloud and what does that mean, I think the key is that the skill sets and the knowledge that you have are critical skill sets for the future, because the information that you manage, the data that you manage, is at the center of the companies and the organizations that you work for. And the opportunities that will exist for you as you move forward is to take the skill sets that you have and then to be able to leverage that skill set to help your organizations, help your end users, help your customers to solve new problems that were very difficult or maybe impossible to solve before. I want you to know that we've been working on this for a long time. I mean, if I go back to the beginning with this product, and it really started a long time ago in a very humble and simple way. But through your feedback, we've been able to really help help you to solve problems and to bring the industry forward. We very much appreciate that. What I think you're going to hear over the next couple of days is how Microsoft is very much here for you, and there's a whole lot of great things that are coming your way. But it's only possible because of the great work that you do, and it's fantastic to have an opportunity to share that with you and be here today.